This is one group. Y'all, here we go. Okay, so what we're gonna do is this exercise is really about listening to each other, hearing each other, and because of that we need to align our energies and our movement building, and by doing that we need to harmonize, so we're gonna harmonize and jam out. So this group, follow my lead, and then just keep going. Oh wait, no. Follow my lead and then stop, and then I'll tell you what to do, and you follow my lead and then stop. Then I'll get you to start, and then you'll start, and then we'll harmonize, and it'll be really beautiful. Okay, great. Okay. All right. Just follow my lead. We will build power. We will build power. We will build power. We will build power. Okay. Yay. Sorry. Okay, ready? Rise up and claim our power. 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 Great, cool. Everyone down? Okay, let's start. We will build power. We will build power. Build power, rise up and claim our power. 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 Rise up and claim our power.
If you're already watching this, you probably don't need an explanation of the causes and effects of climate change. And probably, you also already know that most of the greenhouse gas emissions from energy generation, factories, farming, deforestation, and transportation have come spewing out of the world's developed nations ever since the explosion of manufacturing and development we call the Industrial Revolution. These include the United States, many Western European countries, Canada, Russia, Japan, and China. But even though their emissions have created this inconvenient truth, those countries are not the ones paying the price of their actions. Developing nations where weather is more extreme and food and water are more scarce are the ones seeing the first and worst impacts. Droughts, floods, crop loss, natural disasters, refugee crises, these are just a few factors these people face. To make it worse, these countries are often much poorer in finances and resources than the countries that caused the crisis. That makes it less likely they'll be able to build up protection from climate change, and more likely that when climate disaster strikes, many people will suffer without relief. In 1995, after decades of scientific warnings, leaders around the world decided it was time to try to stand together and do something. Through the creation of a treaty called the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, policymakers began to do what they do best, negotiate. And then they did the other thing they do best, disagree. For years, factors like economics, powerful corporate lobbies, and lack of commitment from countries like the US made any significant action impossible. With scientists, activists, and everyday people screaming that time was running out, leaders from over 190 countries met for the 21st year in a row in December 2015 in Paris. At this 21st Conference of the Parties, or COP21, the task was clear: create a new climate treaty that would finally take things seriously. After years of preparation and 2 sleepless weeks of negotiation, the world came to an international agreement called, obviously, the Paris Agreement. Goals for limiting emissions, shifting to cleaner energy, and compensating developing countries as they confront climate change were just a few major points. We still had a long way to go, but world leaders were cautiously optimistic that humanity might not have totally screwed ourselves after all.
It is now my high honor and distinct privilege to introduce to all of you the President of the United States of America, President Donald Trump.
In order to fulfill my solemn duty to protect America and its citizens, the United States will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord.
Well, shit. Trump's announcement spurred responses from leaders around the world, from politicians and CEOs.
Because wherever we live, whoever we are, we all share the same responsibility. Make our planet great again.
To Twitter and street protests. And screaming loudest of all were the young people. After all, Trump was born in 1946. With all due respect, he'll be buried in his solid gold casket way before climate change's ugliest impacts arrive, leaving it to the youngest generation to deal with that legacy. And of course, it's the youth of developing nations that will be fighting hardest of all. In the powerful rooms of international climate negotiations, they're lobbying negotiators, and in the halls outside, they are chanting loud until their voices are heard. This is one story out of thousands. A glimpse into the chaos of roundtables and sit-ins, backroom deals, and frontline activists. A fight not just for the earth, but for their lives. Malaysia is an island in Southeast Asia bordering Singapore. As of 2015, its population was about 30 million. The island was colonized by the British for almost 200 years, but finally, it gained its independence in 1957. Despite the fact that Malaysia was initially exploited by colonizing countries for its agricultural and mining resources, its exports remain a significant source of cash, making up about 80% of GDP. The country's biggest exports include electronics, oil and gas, palm oil, and rubber. So although the poverty rate has steadily decreased and standards of living for everyday people have risen, Malaysia is still getting its footing, and climate change is threatening to snatch away a lot of this progress. Scientific studies by organizations like the International Fund for Agricultural Development and the World Health Organization have identified a long list of climate dangers threatening Malaysia's future. Let's look at rain as an example. Malaysia's got plenty of it. The main monsoon season usually runs from November to March, in which the abundant rain provides water for crops, aquifers, and hydropower generation. But as climate change has shifted things like ocean currents and storm systems, the monsoons have been changing too.
It already affected Malaysia in many ways.
This is Adrian Yo. He's a Malaysian veteran in international climate negotiations and works with the young Malaysians we'll be meeting later. But for now, he's here to tell you about climate change. Listen up, because he knows his stuff.
Look at our monsoon rainfall pattern. It has changed dramatically in the last couple of years. Just last November, we had a big devastating flood that happened in the north part of our country.
In December of 2014, torrential rains hit Malaysia, causing flash floods that displaced over 200,000 people from their homes. Though climate change is likely not the only cause of this flood, its extremity is a preview of what may become the new normal. Here's another example. Remember how we learned that Malaysia's economy depends a lot on agricultural exports? Well, climate change isn't going to treat them too nicely either.
Every increase of 1 degree Celsius of the global temperature, there's a research that says that we will lose about 30% of our production of these crops.
These plants are sensitive, and throwing drastic temperature and rain changes at them can often be a death sentence. Less harvest to sell means less money coming into the country, and suddenly the economy is looking kinda shaky. With about 1/3 of the country dependent on agriculture for their livelihood, this could leave millions poorer and hungrier. Speaking of losing stability, let's talk about mangrove. A gnarly, deep-rooted tree that grows in the salty waters along Malaysia's coasts Mangrove habitats are both protectors and providers. They provide a home to crustaceans, fish, birds, snakes, and lizards, creating a diverse ecosystem and a huge part of Malaysia's fisheries. They prevent saltwater from seeping into Malaysia's freshwater resources, and they create a natural storm wall that shields human populations from tsunamis and flash floods. And, like all trees, they suck carbon out of the sky, decreasing the rate of global warming. So yeah, they're a big deal. But mangroves are seeing their saltwater habitats shrink away. More freshwater is flowing in and diluting the water they need to survive, largely due to changes in rainfall patterns and sea level rise caused by warming oceans and melting ice from Earth's poles. If the mangroves start dying, a chain reaction of ecosystem collapse isn't unlikely, and suddenly, people in Malaysia become wide open to polluted water supplies and any storm that wants to rage in off their unprotected coast. So for Malaysians, climate change means enormous threats to their economy, their environment, and their lives. This is the inheritance of Malaysia's youngest generation. Some of them want to do something about it. This is their story.
40,000 negotiators from nearly 200 countries are descending on the French capital for the United Nations Conference on Climate Change, or COP21.
The big question in Paris is, can the world's nations agree on a climate plan that will really make a real difference?
More than 120 people have been killed in Paris and more than 200 are injured in a series of attacks across the city.
President Hollande has declared a national emergency and restricted travel through the country's borders.
Social media filled with symbols of solidarity under the hashtags Peace for Paris, Pray for Paris.
The army and police have Paris covered. They were ordered onto the streets after the attacks of November the 13th. Now they have an added responsibility, ensuring the COP21 climate summit passes off smoothly.
May I ask you to rise and observe a moment of silence in honor of the victims?
Demonstrators that I talked to are essentially, they were trying to come out and show that they're not afraid, even given this security situation, that they saw climate change as an emergency before the terror attacks. They see it that way now. They'll see it that way, in future generations.
Just over a week ago, I was in Malaysia, where I held a town hall with young people. And the first question I received was from a young Indonesian woman. And it wasn't about terrorism, it wasn't about the economy, it wasn't about human rights, it was about climate change. And she asked whether I was optimistic about what we can achieve here in Paris and what young people like her could do to help. I want our actions to show her that we're listening.
You try imagine this morning, I'm sitting inside there.
Well, I always like to start with this question: how old will you be in 2050? 2050, science tells us that the worst impact of climate change is gonna hit us if we continue to business as usual. So by 2050, the young generation of today are the biggest generation that are going to be impacted by climate change. PowerShift Malaysia deals with getting young people empowered and activated to do more lobbying and engagement with the government, whereas Malaysian Youth Delegation focuses on policy making and lobbying on policy matters.
I've been very active in PowerShift Malaysia. Like in 2014, I was helping to organize a local PowerShift. It's basically like an environmental advocacy camp or conference where we talk about activism? How do you use social media to push forward your campaigns and things like that?
We have gone through a series of training with the climate experts back at home.
Our main aim to be here is because we wanted to follow up with our Malaysian negotiators to see that how Malaysia play a role in combating climate change.
What they discuss in the closed meeting or what they discuss in Malaysia, maybe it's different. Maybe it's a different story when they went to when they're in the Paris. So I wish to like what they say is truthful, is straightforward, is in honesty.
I think the youth here, especially our generation, which have more access to education, should use this as a privilege to bring out the concerns of the country to the world.
Voices as a youth are important is because we are basically the leaders of tomorrow. And whatever happens in the future is our decision to make.
The Conference of Youth is here for us as the youth to do whatever we want. We want to have talks, we want to have idea sharing, we want to tell people what are the different programs we've been doing and basically mobilize the youth voice. That's what I feel COI is about.
We're here because we know what's at stake today. What's at stake today is our future. And the future of the future generations. The world cannot afford more years without having a legally binding commitment to make this planet a sustainable place. So here's my message. We should never underestimate the power of young people. As voters, as consumers, as innovators, and as a social media activist. Young people are raising their voices, and it's time for governments to listen.
The urgency of climate change and things like that, all this didn't really stick in to me until like maybe about 3-4 years ago, when I started realizing, you know what, we're kind of screwed. If we just keep going on this path, within my lifetime, I'm probably not gonna see the same things that I saw as a kid. And this knowledge has given me a sort of like epiphany moment, like felt like, yeah, I gotta start making a difference and I gotta start doing it now. YONGO stands for Youth NGOs. Yeah. It's the official Youth UN network. Based on our training, we knew about like, okay, YONGO's got a lot of different working groups and things like that, and this is a way, these working groups are basically a medium for us to get ourselves heard and get our voices out there. So for me, I'm not really a policy person, so I thought, okay, you know what, maybe I'll go check out the action working group. Seeing that these people actually like want to get things done, we need to do this now, and they were like taking action, they were planning things, they were coordinating what do we need to do, how do we need to do it, and like I like that.
So can you explain the flag to us, Thomas?
I will explain the color first. You see this, moon, the crescent moon?
Yeah.
The crescent moon means Islamic country. Malaysia is an Islamic country, and then this moon is a symbolized of Islamic, and then this star, 14 star, actually each mean our 14 state, because in Malaysia we have 14 states. So each of the angle is one state. So, and then we have also 14 stripes, also mean about 14 countries. 14 states. So, color, what about yellow? Yellow is about royalty, the royal color, right? Yeah. The royalty color. Blue is the harmony, right?
Actually, I don't know.
I forgot. But I think blue is about the peace. Yeah, peace. Red and I forgot, right? Sorry, but I forgot the red and
we'll get back to
white
you.
color. Yeah, we'll get back to you.
High energy source.
It's definitely
after that, you might not need so much funds. You might need more technology, and then further on, everyone's saying, well, the rail system is so amazing in the UK and in Paris, and yeah, it's great. Okay, but then what's the carbon footprint of all that steel and all that digging, all that tunneling? So once it's done, it's easy to talk about it. But before you've invested, if you were to do that kind of project now, well, maybe the first thing to say is that no one doesn't have a stake in climate change. There are no outsiders in climate change. Everyone's going to be impacted. For example, more extreme thunderstorms means greater chances of flash floods. It means more lightning damage. It means more car accidents. It means higher insurance premiums. The works. The new agreement that we're negotiating now, all we really want out of it is equity. If there's an equitable plan for the countries, first of all, that maybe inadvertently, but nevertheless cause the problem, to try thinking about how they can help countries that haven't had the chance to develop to find a different development trajectory, a different development pathway that doesn't involve fossil fuels. We'll be happy to take that pathway. I think it's really important that we involve the youth at a very early stage, keep them involved, keep talking to them, help them to understand. It's like if your country is consistently racking up a budget deficit and building a huge national debt. The implication is you expect the next generation to pay it off. Okay, we're doing the same thing with the climate.
Yeah, free balloon lah. No, it's selling. I just got. Pencuri? No, I know the person. Huh? I know that. No, Ronnie! Even worse. Open your Bible, people. Somebody answer me on ADP. 5 o'clock meeting tomorrow. Okay.
It's an opening plenary.
It is a fucking opening plenary.
Yeah.
It's not a meeting. Where's the opening plenary? That everybody gather together, all the 190 over countries sit down together and open. So you guys have not been reading your Bibles.
Over youths that applied to become part of this Malaysian youth delegation. In Paris today we have 6 of them. But these 20 of them have gone through a 6 months training on the topics and the negotiations and the geopolitics of the negotiations and the ins and outs of perspective from developing countries and perspective from developed countries. I'm slowly evolving my role as a youth participant to become a mentor to young people in Malaysia, to share the knowledge that I've gained over the years and also to empower them so that they can also take the leadership role in the years to come. I always like to start with this question: how old will you be in 2050? 2050, science tells us that the worst impact of climate change is gonna hit us if we continue to business as usual. This is why young people of today are the most important stakeholders of today's negotiations.
It is COP time, it is COP time. Look at all the people, the people, the people. Look at all the people, it's food. Everyone's having some food here and there. But most of the people are moving from one place to another. La-di-da-da, look at all the places, oh my god, it's so big. It's like I've been walking forever.
The rest of us in MYD, we actually it's like such a nice thing for us to actually come together and do our training series or meetings and whatnot, because it's nice to see people like who also have the same ideas as you, same wants as you, like they want to change the world, want the world to be a better place.
It's good lah. I think although we have different characteristics which will sometimes have some friction, but I like the diversification of this team.
My main agenda to come here is because I want to try our Malaysian negotiation text. But I'm not really into all this mobilization.
But so far, I think I am enjoying myself tracking the negotiators, not the negotiations. Because it's very motivating when I see Malaysia taking a very active role in all the negotiations. And so I think I would use this as a highlight when I go back to share with my peeps and let them know that Malaysians are doing really great job out there. Because like back in Malaysia, climate change is like a not so hot agenda even in the parliament. So I hope this can spark people more.
Even though our voice might be quite small for now, but in the future I believe it will be very important.
Like, it's just in maybe 5-6 years, who knows, I might become the negotiators.
So Amalan, he's like the frontliner of our team. Even before we come here, we already feel that he is that kind of person.
Amalan is like a shaper or a motivator, something like that.
You actually engage with people in a very grassroots level, and that is something that I really admired.
He only come here for like 2-3 days and he know everyone's in Yangon and everyone's know him. That's very amazing.
I'm involved in the Yangon Action Group, the working group for actions going on in COP itself, to basically do lobbying, to do protests of sorts, rallying inside there in a creative manner, and hopefully I get to speak out a lot.
To make this meeting be really valuable for everyone, I really want to trust everyone's participation in making this timely. So, upcoming actions, 5 minutes. After that, talking about more radical actions. This was really drawn from the need of wanting to push the barriers. We've been particularly pretty tame these first few days. We're really going to try and create some social change and really thinking about the intention of our actions, and if they're really having the impact that we want, we really need to think about how we're engaging with the people that we need to talk to.
Maybe when we're going to talk about radical actions, we can also think about whether these actions are going to actually make an impact, or is it just going to be us making noise. Like certain things that we can consider is like, if there's a certain negotiation delegation that we want to specifically target, we can maybe plan our action around the time that maybe they leave a hall or things like that, so that it's directly like they see it. We want the right people to see it and the right people to actually feel the impact that we're trying to make. So yeah, maybe that's something we can consider as well.
This is a moment to reframe and maybe take legitimacy away from the COP and try to shift power towards people.
We have to find a process to reach consensus, because the broader the coalition, the more political divisions that there are going to be.
We're youth. We should be pushing borders. We should be making them pressured, because the future is ours.
Because Yangon is actually where I think a lot of climate activists find themselves in an international organizing context for the first time. It's a hugely useful learning experience. So I think actually the most successful thing that arts activism has done for Yangon especially is actually this idea that we need an art space, but then actually that becomes sort of a social space. People can go and hang out and talk to each other and chat and paint a banner, and then you talk to the person next to you, and actually acknowledging that the COP is a tool for our movements to use. It's not the solution. I wouldn't be surprised if many of the Yangon folks here, the first time that they're directly engaging with frontline communities is actually in this international context. They might not be doing that nationally. It's been wonderful meeting people like Amlin the other day, who are actually coming with that useful enthusiasm, because that is necessarily a productive force. When we want to take leadership from the most impacted, the difference between saying, come, you should come and lead our thing, versus saying, what do you want to do? How can we support that? How can we follow? And I think that's the shift we're in right now, of actually trying to understand what that means.
People are taking advantage of the fact that, hey, the Global South youth is not here, let's just do whatever we want, and there's no youth here to actually voice out or lobby and say like, hey, what the hell are you doing? They're from the Global South, don't ignore us, don't just push us aside. We've had Global North, like Britain, France, Holland, US, all these different countries taking charge or industrializing or colonizing all different countries in the Global South, and we got to stop that like now. People think we are not as smart, not as educated as people from the North. Like for example, like the other day someone was talking to me and like trying to explain this app system to me, and then like, you know what an app is, right? I was like, I've got a smartphone. Some people in Yangon, they definitely realize this and try to push forward more for the Global South, but at the same time, there's still some people who are just like, yeah, so what? We're here as youth. We shouldn't be talking about these issues and things like that here. That's got to change. We can only have a unified voice when these issues are not only understood, but addressed as well. So we're going to be organizing a divestment action to get people more aware that we, the youth, do not want a carbon-dependent future and we want to divest. We're also going to be tossing around this huge 2.5 meter carbon bubble that Kevin made, and hopefully it's going to be quite fun. Well, Kevin actually submitted the action, but he also asked me to like help find people to actually join. I don't know, it's the first action I'm going to be involved in, and I'm kind of a bit skeptical. Like, I don't know whether I'm going to get a good response or not, and I don't know, it makes me a little bit nervous.
Fossil fuels have got to go. Real leaders divest from fossil fuels. Real leaders divest from fossil fuels. Real leaders divest from fossil fuels.
Industrialization area all the way till now, keep taking carbon out of the ground for all sorts of purposes is not a good way to go. We have other methods, we can definitely do it.
So I'll be sharing a poem about the beauty of our islands and what we want the world to know, which is that we shouldn't have to leave and we shouldn't have to move from our islands because of the flooding. And so this is a poem I wrote, and it's called Tell Them. Okay, so this is a poem I wrote, and it's called Tell Them. I prepared the package for my friends in the States. First, the dangling earrings, woven into half moons, black pearls glinting like an eye in a storm of tight spirals. Second, the basket, sturdy, also woven, brown, cowrie shell, shiny, intricate mandalas shaped by callous fingers. Inside the basket, I write a message. Wear these earrings to parties, to classes and meetings, to the corner store, the grocery store, and while riding the bus. Store jewelry, incense, copper coins, and curling letters like this one in this basket. And when others ask you where you got this, you tell them they're from the Marshall Islands. Show them where it is on a map. Tell them we are a proud people toasted dark brown as the carved ribs of a tree stump. Tell them we are descendants of the finest navigators in the world. Tell them our islands were dropped from a basket carried by a giant. Tell them we are the hollow hulls of canoes as fast as the wind slicing through the Pacific Sea. We are wood shavings and drying pandanus leaves and sticky widows and gammons. Tell them we are sweet harmonies of mothers, aunties, sisters, songs late into night. Tell them we are whispered prayers. Tell them we are little girls with braids, cartwheeling beneath the rain. We are shards of broken beer bottles burrowed beneath fine white sand. We are children flinging like rubber bands across the road clogged with chugging cars. Tell them we only have one road. And after all this, you tell them about the water, how we have seen it rising, flooding across our cemeteries, gushing over our seawalls, and crashing against our homes. Tell them what it's like to see the entire ocean level with the land. Tell them we are afraid. Tell them we don't know of the politics or the science, but we see what's in our own backyard. Tell them some of us are old fishermen who believe that God made us a promise. Tell them some of us are a little bit more skeptical. But most importantly, you tell them that we don't want to leave. We've never wanted to leave, and that we are nothing without our islands. Thank you.
First, it was a bit like nerve-wracking, like, yeah, we're gonna be chanting, it's gonna be awkward, we're just chanting here and like, you know, you get that, like, I don't know where to look, I don't know what to do, like, yeah, I'm here with these people, that's us, so you're like looking at everyone else, but then like you're realizing, hey, people are here to see me, I should be talking and addressing them, so that's what I started like, doing, like, as things started going on, I started getting more comfortable. Like, I've done things like this back home, but this is like on a whole different scale. So Friday morning in Koi, there was this Asian meetup which was under Koi's program, but they did not have anyone to organize this. Me and a girl named Sijin from Korea, we basically decided, yeah, let's do this together, and we just wanted to address certain issues like what is everyone doing here, what do you feel is your outcome, and maybe what can we do moving forward from this. So we did that Asian meetup in Koi, and there was a lot of people, like the room was completely crowded, and like seeing that there was a huge Asian presence here made me think like, you know what, I think I want to organize an Asian dinner. I want to organize a dinner outside of COP or Koi where we can just all meet up, because our voice is already as it is underrepresented and not very heard that well. So I want us to come together, meet up with each other, and bring forth a unified Asian voice.
Exactly. So we got a new company for social enterprise. So I do that now. Getting quite late. It's already 8:30. So can we just like maybe just go around and just everyone just sort of like introduce yourself, like just 3 things. 1, where you're from. Your name, of course. Sorry, your name. Where you're from originally, and maybe share why you're here. All right. So I'm just gonna start. My name's Amalin. I'm from Malaysia. And I'm here with Malaysian Youth Delegation to basically represent the voice of Malaysian youth. Woo!
My name is Christina. I'm from Japan.
My name is Kang, and I was born in Korea. My name is Yang. I'm originally from Singapore.
My name is Panut. I'm from Sumatra, Indonesia.
My name is Robihat. I'm from Thailand, Bangkok.
Oh, my name is Ai. I'm from Japan, but right now I'm studying Paris.
Hello, I'm Kwon from Taiwan. I'm Chris. I'm from Taiwan.
I'm Bilu, and I'm from Nepal.
What we can do moving forward is that now we're here, we're building connections. Let's work with each other, like Taiwan youth, Malaysian youth. Maybe there's something we can work together to work on together as both our countries. Like if there are certain similar problems we face.
We can really focus on highlighting positive initiatives rather than looking at the problem, because problem is always there. And, but looking for young people who actually inspire for climate change. So we're looking for climate change hero among young people.
Definitely, I like that idea. Let's not focus on the problems. Let's focus on the positive things, the solutions, the ideas that we young people can come up with. Because
addressing problems is important too.
I know.
Because most of you are come here to tracking the conversation, but we didn't see a lot of Asian people come in the media. So me and Amanda was hoping that maybe more young people can join the Young Go Action, maybe.
You ready? 1, 2, 3. Asian awesome! Woo!
So last night was the Asian dinner. I didn't expect to have such a big turnout, like 25 in one spot and 13 in another. That's like 39 people, and that's a lot, like to come outside and meet up. And actually quite a number of them weren't from COI. They're all pretty much here at COP, and they sort of just found out from one way or another. The fact that we managed to get another whole bunch of different people come and join in was kind of impressive, I feel, and it was kind of amazing. Yeah. I felt that it was a success because at the end of the day, everyone was happy, everyone got to know one another better, everyone was realizing that there's actually a bigger number of Asians here. Like there's this one girl, Bindu, from Nepal. She's been here for like 4 days in COP, and she has not met a single Asian person, like any other Asian youth at all in 4 days. And I was like, she thought there was hardly anyone, and when we came up and had that big dinner yesterday with everyone, she was like so surprised. So was I.
The rest of the world applauded when we signed the Paris Agreement. They went wild. They were so happy. For the simple reason that it put our country, the United States of America, which we all love, at a very, very big economic disadvantage. The United States will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord, but begin negotiations to re-enter either the Paris Accord or in really entirely new transaction on terms that are fair to the United States, its businesses, its workers, its people, its taxpayers. So we're getting out.
I think this is a disastrous decision, both on the science of climate change, because all of us around the world have to combat it, and the United States should have stayed in the Paris Agreement. But it's also, I think, very detrimental to America's responsibilities around the world, to our allies and friends, to our leadership role. I think our reliability is going to be called into question.
The idea that they're now all about to say, we were wrong all along and you were right, so we'll join in. Frankly, that's fantasy land.
The decision by the United States to withdraw from the Paris Agreement on climate change is a major disappointment for global efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and promote international security.
Wherever we live, whoever we are, we all share the same responsibility. Make our planet great again.
We have a saying in Bahasa Malaysia, jangan jaga tepi kain orang lain. That means don't look at other person's skirtings. Like, don't worry about others people's skirtings or things like that. Worry about your own. I don't feel the need to be sad that Trump is president and Trump doesn't like climate change or whatever. He's your president in America. You guys handle him.
I think when God created him in a busy day, the God forgot to input the word climate change. So he has 99 problems, but climate change is not a problem for him.
I don't think we should be disappointed because you see the response after that. All the mayors, all the business leaders from US and even world leaders to commit even further.
The impacts of climate change in Malaysia is getting worse. But the thing is that people are more aware, especially with Malaysian youth delegation. The first batch, we only have 20 people, right? The second batch and the third batch, we select this batch. We have more people and more youths that wanted to engage in it.
When the rains come again, landslides and things like that, definitely going to happen.
I think in the very recent year, more and more flash floods can be seen, especially in the city area. And it's not only from my personal level, like even my friends who have never talked about environmental issues, they've been talking about it.
COP21 is definitely a privileged program for me to attend. The experience has taught me that in order to make a change, we should start from small and definitely start from my community, my people.
Throughout COP21, I've seen how companies or private sectors are really keen to help in this cause. So it really changes my mind, changes the way I look at companies.
Before I went to COP, I didn't think that youth actually is a part of the bigger solutions. In the COP, I saw many youth from different nations. They're doing climate actions and all these things. I felt like the power is strong.
Like, I don't think I would be here today doing the work I'm doing with deforestation and indigenous rights and urban farming, and also with youth development in Malaysia, if it wasn't for going to COP. As long as there's a problem with climate change, I think I will always be there. I'll always be involved. It's a part of who I am.